Do you ever look at a job being performed and know there's a problem, but you just can't figure out exactly what it is? It might be that the employees are working in awkward positions, or they're complaining how difficult it is to do. Maybe they're telling you that a body part is tired or sore at the end of the day or week. Well, learning how to identify these problems and come up with effective solutions is the purpose of this program. While you might be able to identify which job contributed to an injury, it is another thing entirely to know what it is about this job that caused it, and yet another thing to know what to do about it. What we'd like to do in this program is help you identify the demands and risk factors that are associated with a job. Then we'll give you the tools you need to go through a process of eliminating or reducing these risks. All right, let's get started. When most people think about ergonomics, they think about going out and fixing things. It can create a bit of a problem. We get in such a hurry to fix something that we forget to make sure that we have an accurate diagnosis of the problem. A good diagnosis in the clinic is essential when choosing a good treatment. A good diagnosis of the risk factors in the workplace is essential if you want to come up with appropriate solutions. Risk factors. Just hearing the term risk factor gives you some indication that it's probably not a good thing. A risk factor is something that increases the chances of an injury or an accident occurring. We quickly evaluate the risk factors associated with crossing the street when there's traffic or diving into a swimming pool that may be shallow. Even at work, we recognize the need to wear safety glasses where things can get in our eyes, or steel-toed shoes where things can fall on our feet. However, there is another set of risk factors that is associated with injuries that are much less obvious. They are the risk factors associated with how we sit, stand, lift, lower, push, pull, carry, and position ourselves to perform our work. Risk factors that cause a serious fall or a burn are pretty obvious. Others, like repetitive overhead work, prolonged standing in a forward bent position, or working with loads at arm's reach, may not be as easy to recognize. This section will help you identify and record these risk factors so you can begin working on reducing their impact. How do we determine what jobs to look at first? As we go through our facilities from day to day, we may overlook the obvious risk factors that cause injuries because we're not the ones doing that particular job. But if we take the time to collect, identify, and interpret past injury data and trends, we can gain insight into those jobs that are causing the problems. Historical data, such as your OSHA 300 log or your workers' compensation loss runs, can help you focus your back injury prevention efforts. As you do your review, keep in mind some of the following questions to help you identify jobs that contribute to back pain and disorders. Are there jobs that have a high incidence of reported back injuries? Are there jobs that have a high number of work restrictions because of back disorders? Are there jobs that have a history of complaints of back pain? Are there jobs that have a record of absenteeism, or are they difficult to staff? Use the answers you obtain from this to put together a list of jobs that would benefit from further job analysis. Armed with this list, let's look at a couple other factors that may affect these jobs. Workload demands, such as handling objects greater than 50 pounds, sustained heavy effort for greater than 1 hour, sustained work in awkward postures, or work that is highly repetitive, or working for more than 8 hours per shift, can all add to fatigue. When we are fatigued, a couple of things happen. First, our muscles are less capable of handling the workload. This increases the risk to the muscles and joints and often influences our body mechanics in a negative way. You can usually see it as it happens. The more tired my legs become, the more likely I am to use my back to lift. The second thing that happens when we are fatigued is that we start looking for shortcuts and quite possibly making bad decisions. This may mean that we reach and twist instead of getting closer and moving our feet first, fail to ask for help or use a material handling device. Or it may mean that we handle an even larger load simply because we're tired and we want to get done with the job in a hurry. In any case, it is important to identify from our list those jobs that lead to increased fatigue. It is also important to recognize that environmental factors can increase the potential for back injuries. A lot of the strains and sprains that occur in the workplace happen as a result of a slip, trip, or fall. Poor housekeeping, trip hazards, or slippery footing can contribute to a slip or a trip. Extreme temperatures or the need to wear protective clothing that restricts movement can also increase the demands of the job. Another important environmental risk factor is whole body vibration, especially the vertical vibration that comes from operating a truck, forklift, or tractor, or from standing next to heavy vibrating machinery for long periods of time. Whew, okay. Using the forms provided to prioritize our list of jobs for further analysis, let's select a task and take a look at the primary risk factors that will get us closer to determining the source of the back pain and injuries. The first risk factor is excessive loads. Loads are objects. Could be a box, a bag, or even a person. What makes it excessive is the weight of the object and its location as it is lifted, lowered, pushed, or pulled. For example, an object that is heavy and lifted close to the body and in good posture is generally easier on your body than an object that is lighter but being lifted at arm's reach or from a bent over position. Also, remember that everyone is different, has different capabilities. What may be a manageable weight for one person to handle may actually be too much weight for someone else. The second risk factor is sustained or awkward postures. Our bodies work very efficiently in what are called neutral or power positions. These are positions where the body can perform the greatest amount of work with the least effort and the least risk of injury. Let me give you a quick example of a power position. If I wanted to jump as high as possible, I would want my legs in their strongest position. I wouldn't jump from down here. My leg muscles are stretched out and weaker. I wouldn't stand up completely straight and try to jump either. There's no power here. The power is in the mid position. Does this position look familiar? It's the position of a basketball player ready to jump, a football player ready to hit someone, or a baseball player going for the ball. The whole body functions this way. We are at our best when we can work with our head aligned over our shoulders relaxed with the arms closer to the body instead of overhead or extended forward, our wrists in line with our forearms, and our backs in the three natural curves. When looking at a person working, try to determine what body parts are working outside or away from these neutral or power positions for extended periods of time, and you will have identified some of the risk factors of the job. An important question to ask when you see anyone working outside of the neutral postures is whether the person is doing this because it's their habit or because the job forces or encourages these positions. One way to help determine this is to watch more than one person performing the same job. It's also important to recognize that while neutral postures are good, the body is not designed to stay in any particular posture for very long. This is very fatiguing. We are designed to move. The back is designed to bend forward, go side to side, and even rotate. These are normal movements. If I do this movement one time, have I hurt my back? Probably not. Although I have increased the demands, my back is designed to take this once in a while. But what if this is my job? Do I have a problem now? You bet. Why? Because of the repetition. There are positions for the back that are stronger and positions that are weaker. And during heavy, repetitive work, we can protect our backs by choosing the strongest position that the job allows. Ergonomics is about creating a work environment that invites people to work in positions of strength rather than positions of weakness. Here's an example of what a job evaluation session might look like. We recognize that every company is different and has different resources available. This is simply one example of how you might go about collecting data. Your process may look a bit different, and that's fine. The point is to go through the process. The job or task to be evaluated will have been videotaped for use in the analysis. The tape should be continuous footage, not edited, and be taken so the group sees the job just as they would if they were out in the field or on the floor. Ideally, the group that does the job analysis will come from more than one department. Try to involve people who are familiar with the job. They need to understand what it may take to modify or change the job and need to be committed to seeing the process through to completion. Others that can add to this process include mechanics, supervisors, health and safety or human resources specialists, and engineers. The point is that whether you are a small company with a couple of people working on ergonomics or a large organization with lots of resources, it is good to bring in different people with different skills and perspectives to analyze the risk factors and develop good solutions to reduce the risk of back injuries. Last thing, before we dive in head first, we want to offer you 5 very different points to keep in mind. Before you make any physical changes in the workplace, make sure that you've gone through the Just Ask Why process. It ensures that you'll be getting to the root of the problem and that the solutions you come up with will be effective. Keep in mind that everyone is different and one physical change in the workplace may not fit everyone. Don't forget that it is normal for people to resist change, even if it's good for them. This is particularly true if the new way of doing their jobs seems different than the way they've done it for years. Invite people into the process, particularly if it is their area being evaluated for possible changes. Recognize that you need to establish a formal and predictable process for making changes in the work environment. This means having a system for ranking priorities, establishing a budget, getting management approval, and getting employee input. Don't forget that ergonomics doesn't only reduce injuries and improve employee comfort. It will have a positive impact on production and quality. When you are pitching ergonomics, emphasize the results that are most important to the company. Also, if you really want to get the greatest number of ergo eyes out in the workplace, you need to educate employees about ergonomics. The best identification of risk factors and the best ideas for solutions often come from the people who perform the jobs. This awareness gives the employees the tools and the language to actively participate in the ergonomics process. As you begin your process, pay close attention to these 5 elements. It will go a long way towards inviting participation, reducing resistance, and implementing effective changes.